what I think I'll do is do a whirlwind tour of this code, let you guys know what you would be getting into if you grab it. Just start with this character. What time is it? I still have 3 minutes, so I might as well use up every morsel of time. Oh, 1 or 2. All right, so here's this character, the fairy. The main thing to show is that here are the lines that are actually saying the lines of dialogue, and it's checking the state of the quest. So there's this thing called a variable here. You basically create whatever variable you want over here. It becomes its own block. And so, as you might imagine, you just have a moment where you click on that character, so it's an event you catch. And again, that's a block you can just drag out and use. And then you just write an if statement for every state of this quest that you care about. Play line, change the state of the quest. Once you've met the fairy and have gotten the quest, you would change the state to waiting for the quest to be done. Play line dialogue. The only tricky thing is I put this stop script here so you don't keep falling through. So what happens is if you keep executing it, then you'll play the second line of dialogue too, because you just changed the state of the quest to the second state, and it'll play the second line in succession. So that's kind of nasty coding stuff that I like to make the students wrestle with, because you have to deal with some of that in the business. So that's that basically. I'll show you the inventory system real quick. This has been a hassle in the course. I mean, a writing course, most students don't want to build their own inventory system in code. So one of the things that I wanted to add was something that just lets you build your own inventory just with a list of names, and that's what this is. Again, if it's the first time you're seeing this stuff, it may look a little hairy, but basically there are 2 lists. There's inventory all, which is all the items in the game. They're just names of sprites. So you see there's Ruby, and here there's little pictures. So there's a Ruby sprite, there's a diamond sprite, and you just basically say, here's all the items that I want in the inventory. And then there's the player's inventory, so you can have a list of the items the player has. So that's what you see here, was adding opal to inventory. It's giving the player the opal. And then once you've done that, you just use this one command here to draw the inventory. So it just kind of boils it down to a pretty simple list management exercise. So with that, I don't think we'll go into all the other code, but if you look inside these different sprites, there are little bits of code. If you bump into the Ruby, it adds an item to the list. I'll show you that one of these. So basically adding an item to the list and redrawing the inventory is all you have to do to mess with the inventory items. It takes a while to load sometimes, again, because of B1 and B3. Okay. Oh, you know what? The game's running, that's part of the problem. So anyway, yeah. Here's the kind of thing you would do to give the player the Ruby. It's basically setting a variable so you know you've gotten the Ruby, but it's not even critical that variable's there. But basically, you see this one's adding the Ruby to inventory and then just broadcasting this show inventory message, which talks about broadcasting. That basically tells that first script I showed you to redraw it. So you don't have to actually have that big purple block with all the pixel locations every time you draw the inventory. All right, that's enough code, probably. I don't know if anybody has any more questions about this, if you want to see more of it before the break. Okay, I think the only thing I'll do, I'll just kind of prove this can actually build a piece of software. I'm going to share, compile this project. Say okay. Anyway, it'll show up on your desktop. The only tricky thing about this is it just shows up on your desktop. You don't really know. You can't go to the folder where you have the file. You look in the global place. So anyway, I find it great for the writing course because it doesn't require a lot of startup time. There are other engines out there like RPG Maker. There's this program called Stencil, which is built on similar block technology. And they often offer more kind of full-on game development type stuff. But what I've found is 2 things. Either one, it's just kind of vast. Stencil is super easy. It's just you grab these same kind of blocks like 4-way movement and stuff and stack them together. But there's just so much there. You got to search this large library. There are a lot of game design concepts built into it. I'll show the movement too. So it's not hard. It's all built for designers. It's not built for rocket scientists or programmers even. But it's just a lot to learn. If you're going to just do a one-off quest, there's a lot more to learn in all those tools. RPG, I guess an adventure game studio, if you want to do like branching conversations or something like that, you end up in code, but if you're actually writing like text and stuff for logic, and it just kind of starts to compare it. So anyway, I just want to show you the movement real quick. This is one of the blocks that makes things easier. This one block will just handle the four-way movement for you. Kind of just get something up and go. All right, so let's see if that actually made a piece of software work. Yeah, so it runs. The one drawback about this, I think this would be a great framework to use for like building a work sample to show if you're like applying for jobs in the game business. Any entertainment field, they want to see work, right? They want to see a portfolio. So I think it's a decent starting point to build something interactive. I know when we were hiring writers, if we saw a writer who could show some good writing, but they also had a website that had a hypertext novel, or they had something like that was interactive that they've done, that was kind of like the green light to say, okay, we'll bring you in, let's talk about maybe they understand games. There you go. So it's a piece of software. Same as before. I don't think I'll play through it all again. But you see you have these little controls up here. This is the one negative, I think, of the system, because it actually gives you this control over of the player. So you kind of see the BYOB player. So not necessarily the best toolkit for a commercial game. Some of you were planning to kind of get something going and take it into more of a commercial vein. There's still that drawback, and I think Snap hasn't moved beyond that little controller that still is part of the project that you've created. Okay, that's plenty. Talk about the code. Any questions before we go? Yeah.
Could you talk just a little bit about like secondary storage devices, like in games, like just other ways to like kind of create a mood or immersion?
Okay. Yeah. In the course, the writing course, we have a whole assignment to just build secondary content into games. We kind of build out a game of some kind, and I'll kind of make this one observation. I think one of the fun things about being a game writer is that process of looking at a space, just playing a game, seeing what's in the space, and then dreaming up what's in it. And part of that is the major question writing, but part of it is also, what kind of advertisement could be playing on the TV, or what kind of phone message could be on somebody's answering machine, or what kind of emails are on their computer. And so kind of that's the experience I've had as a game writer, is that essence, basically of just looking at a space and just filling it up with content. So there are tons of opportunities just within a quest you may design, especially if you build it interactively and have a space to work with, where you can just kind of reinforce the world fiction, reinforce reactions of the world to what the player's doing. News stories might change based on what the player's doing. It's just a great, it's kind of the texture map of these scripts. I guess it's a mundane way to put it. You can add a lot of texture with this minor pieces of content each script. Anything else? Okay, thanks for hanging in there for the whole hour. Hope it's somewhat useful.